Welcome everybody to our penultimate event on long COVID. Our theme for this workshop is connecting, and we will focus on two very topical and interesting aspects of connections inside human beings. Gut health is quite a big subject. The importance of the microbiome is being researched in many ways. Today with Dr Hanna Poikonen, we will look at the connection between the gut and the brain. How do they communicate with each other? Then Dr Eleni Tsiompanou will share ideas about refreshing drinks for the summer. The heat wave seems to be over, but staying in balance is always a challenge, and knowing what to put inside our bodies can be a great help. Finally, we will look at another inner connection, which is the basis for many new ideas related to trauma, the vagus nerve, also known as the wandering nerve. Julia Outlaw will be in conversation with Dr. Eleni on this topic. At the end of the session, there will be time for questions, and we will tell you what we have planned for the final event in 2 weeks' time. So, over to you, Hannah.
Thank you, John, and warmly welcome everyone, also on my behalf. I know that I have prepared a couple of slides. So we first go through a bit of theory, how the brain and the body are in communication. And after that, we will do a nice calming exercise, which is mainly focused on relaxing the muscles and calming down the breath. And then there can be a slight gentle body movement with it. So I start with the presentation. I hope you can see if it's okay. Let's make it wider. Wait a second. Yeah. So let's talk about a bit of this brain and body and gut interaction. So just a few concepts to make it easier to understand why something as relaxing the muscles or calming down the breath, why does that also calm down our mind? Basically, there are two ways how the brain and the body are in communication. So there's the nervous system, and then there is the endocrine system. Endocrine system referring to the hormones. And whereas the endocrine system uses chemical signaling, such as like hormones, different kind of hormones, which are produced in the glands, also in the brain as well as in the body. The nervous system uses electrical signaling, neural impulses for this communication and connection of the brain and the body. And the signal transmission of the nervous system, it's fast because neurons are interconnected, but the functions are more short-lived. So they're really the short-lived neural impulses which transmit the messages. And then the signal transmission in the endocrine system is slow, since the hormones must travel through the bloodstream. But the responses tend to last longer in comparison to the signals coming from the nervous system. And then if we look at bits of the structure of the nervous system, is that what we call as the central nervous system, it covers the brain and the spinal cord. So that's the central nervous system. And then our peripheral nervous system, it covers the kind of the rest of the body. So that's how the information goes from the brain and the spinal cord to the rest of the body. And then this peripheral nervous system can be divided to two different nervous systems, one being the somatic nervous system which is traditionally called the voluntary nervous system. So it's related to the motor and sensory neurons. So when we decide to move our arms or we decide to walk, then the somatic nervous system is in charge of these voluntary movements. And then there's the autonomic nervous system, which is traditionally considered as let's say unconscious, that you wouldn't have a direct voluntary influence to that. I little bit disagree. So I hope through the exercise we will do, you will get some very practical, simple tools how you can actually influence the function of the autonomic nervous system. And then also the vagus nerve is an important part of this autonomic nervous system. So you will hear more about that as well later on. So I just wanted to tell you this kind of concept. Sometimes it helps to simplify and understand, like, okay, so what is the central nervous system? It covers the brain, and okay, then it's connected to the peripheral nervous system and these two different branches, the somatic nervous system being the voluntary movement and also sensations, and the autonomic nervous system, more related to our, let's say, stress reactions or digestive reactions and so forth. So the autonomic nervous system also regulates in a very versatile way our internal organs, including guts, of course, but also heart rate and lungs, the breathing velocity, and so forth. So now we learned a bit how the nervous system connects the brain and the body, and then how the hormones then are connected, or how do the messages go between the brain and the body, are through something called Hpa Axis. H refers to hypothalamus, P to pituitary, and A to adrenaline glands, which are kind of the hats on top of the kidneys. You can see them in these images as well. So basically the hypothalamus in the brain, it's a link structure between the nervous and endocrine systems. And its main function is to maintain the homeostasis of the body. And the homeostasis means that we stay balanced. So we have adequate amount of oxygen in our bloodstream. So for example, we get the signal when the oxygen levels start to go down, we get the signal to inhale again, and also to regulate the stress and regulate the pH levels of the body and so forth. So these all are related to the homeostasis, so the balance of the bodily systems. And in that, the hypothalamus in the brain is very important, and that's how these two systems, the hormonal and the nervous system, are connected and in dialogue. And then for me, maybe the most interesting one is the gut-brain interaction. So, and this is quite new field. So only recently we start to understand how important actually the gut health is for our general health. And what has been shown is that an aberrant reciprocal gut-brain interaction meaning that this interaction doesn't work properly, it may influence several conditions, such as inflammation disorders, abnormal responses to stress, altered behaviors, and different kind of metabolic disturbances. And also I would add, like, in general, like energy levels. Like if you feel very tired, it might be that our digestion is not working properly. And by assisting the digestion, we may kind of also help to reduce something called like brain fog, or in general to enhance our energy levels. And this happens through the influence what the gut microbiota has to the central nervous system. And in this picture, you can see quite nice, like, recapitulation, how the gut and the brain are in interaction. So the ANS refers to the autonomic nervous system, or we just spoke before. This nervous system is kind of out of our voluntary control, although through the loop of relaxing the muscles and breathing calmly, we have an access to the autonomic nervous system. And then also through the Hpa axis, which is the hormonal connection of the brain and the body. And then, as you can see here, the interesting word of the vagus nerve, that there is also connection between the gut and the brain through that. And you can really influence the gut health through diet, of course, but then there are other ways. So then you might have noticed that when you feel more stressed, so there might be more like psychological stress or physical stress, it influences to the body or to the gut as well. So also by learning this kind of healthy stress management and exercise patterns and so forth, that can really have a very, very strong influence to the gut health. So we have the diet, but also other lifestyle factors which influence to the gut health, and through that to our general health. So this was just shortly what I wanted to share with you, because we will do a very simple exercise. So I will invite you to do it either sitting or laying in bed or standing. And we kind of go through the whole body, relaxing consciously all the body parts. And then we add a couple of gentle nature elements, so we can really feel this relaxation in the whole body. And why we are doing this is that it really would kind of balance the stress hormones, as well as calm down the autonomic nervous system. And through that, it helps to reduce the anxiety and stress, which are kind of like psychologically experienced emotions. So, and through that also we could reduce the inflammation and so forth. So I think it's fascinating how very simple embodied exercises can influence to our mind. And we sometimes forget that, because often we somehow think that the brain is the kind of the chief, and then the head, like the head, and then the rest of the body will follow. But actually the recent science shows that that's not the case. So there's really this interaction and communication going back and forth. So I would invite you to either sit comfortably in your chair, or lay in your bed, or stand. I will stand up just to show you that option. And of course, if you just stand up, we will do maybe 5 minutes, a little bit longer. You're very welcome to sit down. Also, it's nice that we tend to spend quite a lot of time sitting and laying in bed. It might be good to try this challenge. What if I stand for a little while? But everyone can do this exercise on their own level. So I just share the sound. I hope you can hear it. I know the volume is quite low, but let's put my camera so that you can see me when I'm standing. Something very, very easy and calm. Now we had this nice little moment to enjoy being here, being in this body, being in this moment. With an exhalation, you can allow your eyes to close. And you can just be here there a little while. If you're standing, you might want to bend your knees a tiny bit, just that your standing posture is more comfortable and there's no any extra tension. You can just be there for a little while, kind of observing your breath, allowing it to be as it is. You don't need to try to change it in any way. Just being there a little while. You can allow all the small muscles in the forehead to relax. You can allow all the small muscles around your eyes to relax. In your cheeks and jaw. your tongue, and even the back of your thumb. All relaxed. Your neck and shoulders. Then exhalation, you can really allow the tension to melt away from the neck and the shoulders. The right arm, right elbow, right wrist, right hand, and all the 5 fingers in your right hand. Your left arm, left elbow, left wrist and hand, and all the 5 fingers in your left hand. Your chest area and the upper back. And you can notice how relaxing the chest area and the upper belly and the diaphragm area, that kind of naturally gives more space for your lungs to expand when you inhale. And then you might notice that in a natural way, your breath gets a little bit softer and a little bit longer. Your lower back and the hip area. Your right thigh, right knee, right ankle, right foot, and all the 5 toes. Left thigh, left knee, left ankle, left foot, and all the 5 toes. And the whole body relaxed without any extra tension. And you might notice that when you're here nicely relaxed, there is a gentle sway in your body, and you can imagine that there is a very light wind coming to you and kind of gently swaying your body. If you're laying in your bed, you might want to lift your arms a bit and allow this wind to move your hands. You might do that also when you're sitting or standing, or really allowing this gentle warm breeze to move your body. And you might notice that more relaxed your body is, more gently and more effortlessly it moves with these flows of wind. You really activate your skin and feel the wind gently caressing your skin, your arms, on your face, on your legs. You might notice how your breath is as light as the wind, or in a way in unison with this gentle wind which is swaying you. If you feel like it, you can allow the wind to make your movement a little bit larger, but still as relaxed body as possible. We are just there kind of reacting to this gentle blow of the wind. You don't need to think or guess or direct in any way. You are just there driven by this warm, gentle wind. And then slowly we're coming to the end. You can keep this nice little sway in your body and remember the space which you just created for your lungs and allow the breath to go into your lungs in a very natural way. And when you feel like it, you can gently open your eyes. And now, even though you have this visual input, you can still keep this nice internal listening what you read. You can keep this relaxed state in your all your muscles, and you can keep this calm breath. It's actually quite nice to challenge yourself. Okay, if I have my eyes open, I have this constant information coming from the external world. But how can I keep the calmness inside me, even though there might be even some disturbances coming as sounds or as visual input into you? But you can still move calmly, you can keep the calm breath, you can keep relaxed muscles. So let's try to keep, I challenge you to keep this kind of internal listening throughout for the rest of the day, even though we're interacting with the world, external world, and with each other. We always remember this, oh, actually, we feel good, we feel calm. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Yes, it's so important to try to make that connection with the body, to be in the body, really. So then we're going to move over to Eleni.
Thank you.
Who's going to talk about refreshing summer drinks.
I can't imagine a better preparation for drinking a refreshing drink preparation than the one that Hannah just gave us. In very old traditions, they would have the time to stop and sit down and drink a glass of water, which was quite often not easily available, with reverence really, and gratitude for being able to have a glass of water. So they would stop, sit down and drink it with attention. And if we have the time to prepare with some relaxation or exercise like the one Hannah has given us, then that gives the signal to the autonomic system, which is the system that really we can't govern. It works autonomously to digest whatever we give inside us. So everything we give, which may be very nutritious, full of nutrition, but when the body is well prepared, it can take out of it the best, what it needs. So on one hand, we have what we give, the nutritious, refreshing drink, but then we have the well-prepared body, which is like a soil that has been well prepared to absorb the nutrients that it needs. So having done the preparation, the question then is what drinks to have. And when I was preparing for this presentation, I remembered a study I read about the Seventh Day Adventists. These are a group of people who live together in the States, and they happen to be vegetarians, but they're a very close-knit community, very well connected, who grow their own food. and they eat whatever is in season from what they grow themselves. As I said, they're vegetarians. On top of that, they are one of the group of people that live the longest. What they noticed is that they have a great diversity of gut bacteria, greatest than most of us. This is similar to what is found in a group of a tribe in Africa, where people there also have a great biodiversity, gut microbiota, which is what Hanna spoke about. This is relevant to refreshing drinks because what we put inside our body always feeds the bacteria that reside inside us. Those bacteria are everywhere inside us. Actually, we are a host of microbes and various other microorganisms which we inhale and which we drink and which influence how good our health is. They influence our digestive fire, our ability to get the right kind of food for our health and balance and harmony. And then through that, there's the gut-brain connection, which we'll talk about with the vagus nerve. So these drinks are, at this time of the year, everywhere around us. So in a few weeks, if you go around, you'll see elderberries, and then you can make elderberry syrup and drink it as a drink. A very, very good tonic for the immune system. If you don't have the time or the strength, the patience to prepare such a drink, there are available to buy. One of the best drinks to have at this time is sour cherry syrup. It's very popular amongst the Persians and Iraqi people and Greeks, and you can find it very cheaply in Arab shops. So sour cherry syrup, you dilute a little bit of it with some cold water, and you add a few pomegranate seeds, blueberries, slices of strawberries, raspberries, a bit of mint, which is cooling, and if you have available some borage flowers or a few marigold flowers. I'm sorry, I'm at work today, so I can't prepare it, but it's a delicious, colorful drink that you could have. And actually, there's quite a lot of research to show that if you have sour cherry syrup before you go to bed, it helps with sleep. It's good against insomnia. The same with chamomile tea. So these are hot drinks, but what you could do at this time of the year is you could make your drink in the morning and let it cool down and drink it instead of water. I do that because in a way, it's a way of getting a lot of goodness in the body. Instead of water, I drink cool drinks throughout the day. And you could use whatever you have available. It's either chamomile drink, lemon verbena, and we'll send you a list of these. Mint, which is quite cooling and good at this time. Hyssop, which is something that flowers at this time of the year, and you could use it fresh, and it's very good for chest. Honeysuckle. There's so much honeysuckle out at this time. So if you go and collect the open flowers and make them into a syrup, then you don't need to put a lot of water because the honeysuckle has its own honey. Rose, there's certain types of roses, the ones that have this amazing scent, which you can collect and use to make a tea, or you could dry. Then there are other things that you could buy, like the Creek Mountain tea I keep saying about, which is amazing immune boosting, and combine it with a bit of saffron, which is all sorts of goodness in it, and then leave it to cool and you can drink it cold. If you want something sweet, which is good to cool things down, you could either use honey, sugar, maple syrup, or jaggery. And sometimes, but not very often, because they're not really easy to digest, although they are so popular. You could have, if you have lots of strawberries that are ready to go off, or raspberries or blueberries, you could make a smoothie and drink that. It's a good time of the year to have watermelon and melon, which are very cooling and good for the system. Another very cooling drink to have is coconut water. So have it during this time of the year, but not during winter, because in winter we want to have more hot drinks. So I will write a list of these, and we'll send out. We will put them on the website. But nature gives in abundance this time, and we perhaps have more time this time of the year to go around, and when we can go and collect a few of these flowers and a few of these herbs, leave some behind so that they can reproduce themselves, or other people can take a little bit. We don't want to just take away everything. And then either dry the herbs and the flowers you collect, or have them fresh, or make them into syrups or jams that can be used for later. The same in autumn, there's an abundance of things and are in nature, and we hope at some point when we have our live events, we'll be able to have such an event to go out foraging together, perhaps. So this is the time to collect and prepare for winter, and the spring, where this is the time when we don't have as much. So dry your herbs, dry your mint, your chamomile tea, lemon verbena, and or drink them fresh and have them cool during the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Eleni. Yes, I remember a few years ago, a friend of mine gave me some elderberry syrup, which she'd made, and it's a very intense, delicious flavor.
Yes, and you could have it as elderberry wine or champagne. Lots of people do. It's quite good.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll ask Julia to join us and hand over to you for the discussion on the vagus nerve.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Eleni and Hannah. I think it's all so related, isn't it? And I mean, I'm not a scientist, and some of these terms do go over my head in a way, but I do link it very much to my experience of long COVID, what we're talking about, in terms of everything being connected, and so very connected that you can't sort of address one end of things. If your digestion's not working, then it is going to affect your breathing and everything. And I've read a little about the vagus nerve, and we thought it would be interesting just to discuss it a bit. I know that it covers right from the top of the head down to the gut, through the lungs, through the heart, through the stomach. Is that right, Eleni?
Yes, it's actually, it starts from the brain as one nerve, and then it divides into the left and the right one, just behind the clavicles. And it's called the vagus nerve, as John said, the wanderer, because it goes everywhere. It's amazing. It starts by giving nerves to the external ear and to the muscles on the around the face and in the tongue and our larynx, our esophagus. So it innervates that, and it goes into the heart, and it's responsible for our heartbeat, how good our heart beats and how fast. Then it goes into the lungs. It goes down into the liver, to the spleen, to the stomach, to the colon, and then it makes a loop and it comes back. And most of the function of the vagus nerve is on what comes back. So 20% goes into going into the organs, and then 8% is what information the vagus nerve gets back to the brain, which is quite fascinating.
So help me understand that. So the organs are giving messages through the vagus nerve to the brain saying, for example, that my digestion's not doing well.
Exactly, yeah. And we still don't know how they communicate. There's lots of unknown questions. There's something that happens in the gut, for example, with the billions of bacteria. Somehow they give a signal to the vagus nerve that goes into the brain to say that they are in good balance or they are out of order. So the person then feels either depressed or anxious or angry. This is the gut reaction that we call in our common language. And then there's also this connection from the heart and the lungs. There's something is going on in the heart and gives the signal to the brain. So the body, the different organs communicate with our brain through the vagus nerve. And although there's some things have been discovered, and it was in the early 20th century that they first discovered how the nerves release a hormone called acetylcholine. They release the hormone and then it gives a signal to the organ, whatever organ. But there's so much more that we need to learn and be interested. So heart rate, how we breathe.
Because these are obviously things that are affected with long COVID, and you know, heart rates often were high for a long time and can come up and down, and breathing is obviously affected in many people, and digestion, livers, and so cognitive or neurological things, anxiety and panic. And so, and it's like you said before, an autonomic nervous system. So it's not something we can directly control.
Yes. You remember, Julia, also it's a lot, it has to do with our skin as well, sweating. I remember how many people with long COVID have sweating. They can't control it. So this is also something that is influenced by the vagus nerve and our voice and the breathing. So how to somehow stop this negative feedback, what's going on is our challenge, isn't it?
Yes, and just before how to sort of cure it, I was interested, there's a lot out there about the sympathetic nervous system, or being in fight, flight. And in a way, that's what it felt like for me, at least early on, that I was constantly in this sort of adrenalized, agitated state with my breathing and everything. And that sounds like, the vagus nerve is in that negative spiral, as it were, and it can almost get stuck there. Is that right?
Yes, and so it's like trying to pull yourself off the stuck place, and it's not easy. I was feeling myself like that yesterday, and the only way I could get out of it was by singing. So how to get to the parasympathetic system, which is when you haven't got enough energy to be relaxed and calm, and how to balance the sympathetic, which is the stress that we all feel every day. And when it is very high, the stress, then there's a difference, there's disharmony between the, whatever you want to call it, the vagus and the sympathetic system, the parasympathetic. The words don't matter really. Yeah. What happens is our inability to be calm and connected, and our overwhelming stress that takes over and can't stop us think and go around in circles. So how to break this cycle?
And stress, obviously, it's very stressful being ill and feeling those symptoms, in itself, and that sort of adds to the cycle, I imagine, or at least in my own experience, I found it very difficult to calm down. And you said connected, because I heard the vagus nerve is being called the nerve of connection, in that when it is stable, you feel very safe and connected, and you can connect with other people. Things like eye contact and touch are helpful.
Yes. It has to do with what Hannah said earlier. Through touch, you release, and I'm sure there's a connection in the Hpa Axis, that you release a hormone called oxytocin, which is the touch hormone. This is something produced when a mom gives birth. There's a lot of oxytocin, which is what comes out when we hug someone. This feel-good hormone, this love hormone is released, and it helps us to feel safer and to feel more grounded, more connected. And
which, of course, we've not been able to do really this last year, connect with people and hug them, and obviously that would add to a lack of that.
Yeah, and we haven't been able to read other people's faces because we've been wearing masks. We haven't been able to see their facial muscles. I have to go to my patients and remember, say to them, I'm smiling underneath this mask. So it's a challenge actually, and you can connect through the eyes if you try. It's very interesting to try and connect with someone even through Zoom by looking at them closely and just looking at the eyes. The eyes can say a lot, but the muscles that are influenced by the vagus nerve, which are our facial muscles and our tongue, our speech, we can't see them, so we can't connect through that. So there have been lots of barriers that through this COVID crisis that haven't helped us to be well, be balanced.
Yeah, and the sort of the trauma of it, I know it's talked a lot about, can then trigger more fight flight patterns, etc. But how do we sort of begin spiraling the other way? I mean, there's a lot of things that can help, I know to help the vagus nerve, and things that have helped me, we've talked about, I think, on this course in terms of connection with nature and some of the natural breathing exercises, and also just doing something calmly with attention that's sort of calms the whole system down, whether it's colouring or something like that. Is there much research on what can help?
Well, actually, I think there's research outside long COVID, of course, that all these things can help influence our nervous system. Whether there's a specific research for the vagus nerve, I think this is all to be found and connected to the vagus nerve. And it doesn't matter whether we call it vagus nerve, because the body is very complex. So if we have a complex condition like long COVID, we have to approach it from all sorts of avenues. So we have to do a variety of things to help our whole system. So, and the more we do things that we know have an effect on various organs, not just on one nerve, because the tendency in modern medicine is to focus on one cause for a disease and one solution for it, and then do things like vagus nerve stimulation. Or, it's actually non-holistic. We want approaches that have effect on vagus nerve and other systems in the body. And the body in its wisdom will know how to react, will respond to holistic interventions, and will respond holistically, not one way. So things like singing or walking in nature or doing the exercise that Hannah showed us, or drinking drinks and eating whole foods that are prepared in the right way, having herbs, sleeping in the right way, have certain rhythms and rituals during our day, connecting with other people through dancing together, holding hands, or giving someone a hug, or just being in their presence and listening to them. All these things have an effect on our body beyond the obvious, beyond the one, very multifactorial. And this is what we've been looking at in this long COVID series, and what we will all benefit by doing, especially if you have long COVID. Then you try and go out in nature, breathe in a certain way, and then be with people who like give sunshine, choosing the right ones.
Yes.
Is that what helped you, Julia?
Yes, I think everything you're saying. So it's not about understanding, cognitively how it all works, but I think there's certain just awareness that everything is connected and it's a natural reaction. Your body feels like it's under attack in some way, and we can help ourselves calm down by doing lots of different little things that we enjoy or that give us joy. And I know for me, in those moments when my chest does get tight again and I recognize that awful breathing pattern, to just ground or literally go and find someone and look at them or hug them.
I remember, Julia, when you were at the big crisis, it was very difficult for you to connect with other people, and you had to then go to your GP and
have medication at that point.
yeah.
And it takes all sorts of things. You know, modern medicine can offer a lot, and it's necessary. And I think with some understanding and holistic, you can then, you know, help yourself do things in a more natural way and understand things. And if perhaps I'd been more aware earlier of what was happening to my system, or a lot of long COVID sufferers, then you know, you can get help quickly if you need it.
Yes, absolutely. We need, modern medicine can offer quite a lot of help. And then once you go through this crisis, then holistic approaches can bring other things that modern drugs, well, can't, because they are more specific. They target a specific dysfunction in the body.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, both of you. Fascinating discussion and some really key elements there about, well, sometimes needing the help of the specific, but also the importance of looking at the general and what are the things that help in a general way to come back into a state of balance. Just before I invite questions, I'd like to thank our presenters today, Hanna, Eleni, and Julia, and to tell you a little bit about what's planned for our final session, which will be in 2 weeks' time. And we're going to give a sort of resume, a summary of the key elements of our workshop, which have been embodiments, looking at ways to connect with the body and help ourselves through that connection, and nutrition, different elements of nutrition, and then some specialist input like we've had today from Hanna and in previous workshops from some specialists. And then we're going to talk about how to use the workshops, how you can refer to them. They're all accessible now on our website. They're available for free to anybody who's been to any of these Zoom events. So do please just sign up to our website and you'll have access to all the videos. And I'll send out details again about how to do that. But we're going to talk about developing a routine, a daily routine for oneself. And we'll suggest some ideas of how to go about that and how you can use all the workshops as a reference and an aid. Then I'm going to stop the recording now